Hello and welcome to episode number 30 of the Star Bros podcast. I'm joined by my bro host Ben Skywalker.
And I'm joined as always by my bro host Jan Solo. We are 30 years old.
And you may hear that some of the enthusiasm is gone from our voices because now that we're in our 30s of the episodes, we're going to fall asleep at 8 o'clock and we can't
Dude,
party
it's already
like we
past
used
8
to.
o'clock. We're like, oh man, my bedtime's coming up.
Yep, bedtime's coming up. Got to think about my 401k, pay my mortgage.
When am I going to pay off those student loans?
Never.
Never, the answer is. we're sounding very ominous and depressing for our 30th episode because really we are excited.
We are. I mean, it's a big milestone. We've been pretty consistent and we've been having a great time. And I couldn't believe when you said that this was episode 30. I feel like it kind of snuck up on us. And I hope that just kind of keeps going.
Yeah, every milestone should just sneak up on you and be like, oh, wow, that's a thing. That's happening. Cool.
Yep.
Moving on to the next one.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So tell our listeners how you're doing today. I want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing well. You, dear listeners, cannot see, but we are surrounded by boxes. We're down in my living room. And this is going to be the last episode that we record in this house.
That is very true. And the next episode that we record will be in my new house.
Yes, where we'll be moving in because my wife and I are being evicted. That's
Not
a
true.
joke.
That's not true.
That's not true.
You are more trustworthy than that, or I don't know.
We're okay. We're moving.
Frugal.
We bought our first house, and then right before our move, my wife broke her ankle and tore a tendon in her ankle. So I'm going to be doing most of the heavy lifting, and she'll be doing the supervising.
What did you do to Karma recently?
I don't know. I'm just going to roll with it.
What does Karma have against you right now?
I don't know. But
Okay.
it's okay.
Well, hope for a speedy recovery for Jess.
Yes.
Because that's just awful.
Yeah.
Glad that she's not going to need surgery or anything, but still, I don't want to be on crutches for any longer than I have to.
Nope. And so there's no funny story. So I was trying to think of like a good Star Wars story of how she broke her ankle, like stepping.
She was chasing after a womp rat like she shouldn't have been.
Yep.
And
got caught in an Ewok snare and pulled up into a tree.
I was going to say the Sarlacc pit or something like that.
Oh my gosh, she got out.
A really bad run-in falling into a pit and got herself out just in the nick of time, but not unscathed.
She's going to have her own Disney Plus series, The Book of Jess Fett.
I like it.
I like it too. But how are you, man? How are things?
Oh, good, man. Dude, the fun thing that I'm doing right now is moving into a new house. You have a lot of work to do, and it just takes forever to get unpacked. And you'll experience that again very soon. But I've been really excited because for the first time ever, I have kind of my own space. And my wife has been laughing at me because the whole house needs attention. There's something to do in every room and everywhere you go. And for the record, I am lifting it, pulling my weight in all these other rooms, but nothing like what I've done in my office. I've just been over obsessed with it and trying to make it look really cool and put up all my gadgets. I mentioned last time it was going to be like all my hobbies, and I literally have like my ukuleles on one wall, my Red Wings and hockey pictures on another wall, and then a bunch of Star Wars stuff all over the place. So I ordered my first Ruggable that's like a Star Wars one, and I'm just looking forward to it. And I've been planning it out knowing that we're going to record some podcast episodes there. Yeah. And I can't wait.
Maybe our next episode, maybe we'll record there.
Maybe. Yeah, I hope so. I put up I put up a one of those barnyard doors, those sliding doors.
Yeah.
It took me forever, but I did that to get a little bit of privacy in there, which
People
is really
love
cool.
those things.
So yeah, it should be fun to go in there and lock ourselves in and talk Star Wars. It should be fun.
I can't wait to check it out. And just in case anybody's wondering, yes, Ben and I bought our houses with that sweet podcast money.
Oh yeah. Not
all the podcasters out there just laugh to themselves.
They're just like, what are you talking about? Can we have a slice? No, we're still asking if we can have a slice.
Yeah, there's literally no pie to slice.
We're just having fun talking Star Wars.
Yeah,
that's
man.
all it is.
Yeah, and as are many podcasters, and we love it, and we appreciate, and we love listening to other podcasts. And I'm actually going to mention, I think, a couple tonight, so we'll get around to that in a moment. But
very cool.
Hey, what do you say we jump into the news?
Segment number 1, news from across the galaxy. That was some fighting
Those
in the
were really
distance.
far away, those shots.
You want to stay away. They're having a war over there. Just don't go near it.
Quiet war.
Well, there is a lot of news. I'm going to start on a piece of news that we actually should have shared last time, because it happened on July 28th, which I think was right around or after the time that we recorded. And it's not a good piece of news, unfortunately. It's so the author J.W. Rinsler passed away on July 28th in a battle against pancreatic cancer. I just recently learned the name, honestly, and it was because I bought the Making of Star Wars book, and we talked about it on our episode, just for our year episode,
Yeah,
the
just
anniversary.
a couple months ago, I guess.
Yeah, and loved the book and have been enjoying it, and then found out that he had just passed away. I'm like, that's sad. So he did a lot of the Making of Star Wars books. He started with the prequels and did some of the art of that, and then did the definitive Making of Star Wars book, and then since went on, or after that went on to Empire and Return of the Jedi to cover those. And so it's a very sad loss. He'd done a lot more books than that too, but those are the ones that at least a lot of Star Wars fans will know him for. But it's a sad loss, so we definitely want to extend our heartfelt condolences to his family and friends. So, and to the whole Star Wars community that has benefited from him.
Yeah, and I'll admit I didn't know who he was before the obituary went around. I was just one of those people, like many, who enjoyed his work without knowing the man's name and being aware of who he was. But I was really impressed to see who came out of the woodwork to say kind things about him, including George Lucas.
Oh yeah,
who had a lot of nice things to say about him and his contributions to the overall Star Wars world, universe, galaxy, whatever you want to call it.
It'll last forever. I mean, he covered the movie that changed it all, and that has really set the bar for a lot of cinema.
Yeah,
and covered it in a way that is definitive. So I'm glad it's on my bookshelf, and glad that I have the chance to open it up and learn from it, and we wouldn't have had it without him. So
yeah.
Let's move on to maybe some other news. The biggest thing that happened this week was probably the Visions trailer that dropped.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is I think you're correctly sizing this one up as a way that Star Wars is finding its global brand, or its footing as a global brand. So Visions is an anime-focused, Japanese-made series of Star Wars stories. These are original stories created by Japanese artists and storytellers, done mostly in different types of anime styles. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't know much about anime at all. And in fact, our bro Tommy from Broaxium tweeted the other day that as an anime fan, he can see this being sort of the gateway to anime for a lot of Star Wars fans who just aren't in that world yet.
Yeah.
The trailer looks amazing. I'm grinning to myself thinking about it.
Yeah.
It is so Star Wars, but at the same time, so not.
Yeah.
It's so that anime style of action and splashes of color and excitement and the tension that I think anime does really well. It's all that really cool stuff.
Yep.
But with highly stylized Japanese lightsabers and those types of things. And that show that we're expecting towards the end of September, that's not the only Visions thing. For a while, I think back on May 4th when it was announced, I thought it was just going to be this limited run series, but there are going to be books as well. Like manga books, I guess is how you say it. It's not manga.
Yep, manga. I think I know what you're talking about. Yep.
I think Randy would say manga.
Manga. Probably a little twang with that.
I'm gonna go down to Oklahoma City and get some of them manga books.
Randy always has to show his face.
But dude, there's a book coming out on October 12th, which is the first Visions book, the first Visions manga book, and it's called Ronin. And Ronin, there was a action movie with this title, like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
A Ronin is a rogue or a wandering samurai. And the gist of it is, I'll read the short description to you. How cool does this character sound? So this is Ronin. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I get the the date right. Yes, it's coming out on October 12th. You can pre-order it now through all the normal channels. But here's the product description that they have on Amazon. A mysterious former Sith wanders the galaxy in this Star Wars tale, an original novel inspired by the world of the Duel and Star Wars Visions animated anthology. A mysterious wandering Sith.
Oh.
And
Kind of sounds like Maul, you know?
yeah, but
Like a Maul character, but okay, I'm cool. I'm into this.
Yep. But then there's a bit in here that mentions that this is after the Sith rebellion has failed. And so he's sort of wandering rogue after the architecture of his belief system has kind of come crashing down. And I wonder what that means for him. Is he kind of like the Bad Batch that we'll be talking about a little bit later, where you're trying to survive any way you can? Or is this maybe an opportunity for him to question being a Sith? I don't know. It could go in so many cool directions.
Yeah.
And the artwork looks fantastic. And you can actually see the artwork on our Twitter at Starburst Podcast.
You tweeted that. That's right. Man, that's exciting. And I'll admit for this, it did get me really excited to watch it because I'm the same as you. Like, I don't have too much anime background, and
have you seen any?
Have I seen any? Like Dragon Ball Z back in the day, like watched a little bit of that, but it never really hooked me in. Maybe I was just too into that 70s show kind of stuff, like comedies.
What?
I don't know. I was a weird kid. But I thought what was really cool about this was that they really stayed true to anime, and it was like the whole trailer was Japanese, and it was even just it was subtitled with, they had the English subtitles, but you could tell it wasn't like they always come out with new trailers, like different versions of the trailers for different
markets,
countries, and kind of whatever works in getting people excited in those countries. It's kind of tailored in that direction. So like if it releases in China, for example, they'll do a lot more to show the visual effects of it, because that's the kind of stuff that really gets people excited to go to the movies. So it's just, they tell the same story just in a different way to cut it. This felt like it was a trailer that was releasing in Japan that we were getting the chance to watch and will be released here. You know, it felt really true to just anime.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited about. The one thing that was cool that I noticed when I was curious, like, okay, are they going to have this in Japanese only and you have to watch it with the English subtitles?
Which by the way, I would be totally fine with.
I would be totally fine with too, and probably a lot of people will do that.
Yeah, and in fact, the first time I watch it, if there are other options, I guess you're going to tell us that. The first time I watch it, I want to watch it in the Japanese, and I just want to get the full effect.
Yeah, I think a lot
with
of people
the subtitles will, because I don't understand.
Because you don't understand, but that's what a lot of people do. It's to just get that full, authentic experience. But you may want to watch it with the English version too.
You know what I do know in Japanese?
What's that? Don't say Tamagotchi or something like that.
No. From a show that you recommended for me, Our Man in Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
With James May.
With James May.
And he just keeps going, sumimasen.
Yes.
Everywhere he goes, which is just him being a Westerner apologizing and saying, I'm sorry.
Which he needs to a lot.
Yes.
He really does.
But I keep interrupting, please.
No, you're fine. But the voice actors that they got to do the English voiceovers are recognizable names. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. Neil Patrick Harris.
NPH?
Yes. David Harbour, who was just in...
Oh, yeah.
He was in Stranger Things, and he was just in...
Hellboy.
Oh, gosh. Black Widow.
And Black Widow, yeah.
Alison Brie.
No way, from Community.
From Community, yeah.
Wow.
And
little
Lucy
Annie
Liu.
Edison.
What's that?
Annie Edison from Community.
That's right.
It's one of my favorite TV programs.
I'm still watching it right now. It's interesting. It's my brother's, who's
Is
listening. Thanks, brother.
Wow.
It's one of his favorite as well.
He's a man of refined taste.
Yeah.
That's what I always say about your brother, Jason.
I love that.
What's his name?
Jacob.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. That was fun.
That's very Hollywood of me.
You're getting really up there with this podcasting thing, man. Everyone knows who you
Jacob.
are.
I'm sorry.
Lucy Liu was the last one that I know.
Lucy Liu?
Yeah.
So I recognize every single one of those names.
Yeah, and there are a lot more names than that, and probably some that others might recognize. I just didn't, but I pulled out the ones I recognized, and that was quite a long list.
I would have been surprised if there was like 2 of those, but that whole list is amazing. Wow.
It's a list that I'm sure, as I read those, you knew somebody on that list, and it probably wasn't just from How I Met Your Mother.
Do we know, by the way, are any of those people like serious Star Wars fans that you know of?
I would imagine. I mean, if they aren't, I would imagine that all of them have some sort of answer around, I got into cinema because I was excited by what Star Wars showed. Like they were inspired by it. Like some story along those lines.
And so. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any of those names have had any voice acting work in any Star Wars stuff or been in the background or anything like this. Is all of them. This is their first foray into Star Wars.
You did just remind me that Tamara Morrison is going to be in it and voice Boba Fett.
Okay. Well, then yeah. So besides him, obviously.
Yeah.
What a cool way to start. What a cool way to get into it.
Yeah. Especially if you like don't want to do the live action something or like didn't really. Yeah. Anyway, there's so much to look forward to there.
Oh, so cool.
Speaking of live action, unless you have anything else you want to share on that, let's move on to another piece of news, which is Lucasfilm is apparently looking to cast Sabrine Wren in live action and is in the process of trying to cast her. I think there's a lot of speculation or belief. I don't know how confirmed this is that she's likely to show up in the Ahsoka series. When we last see her in Rebels, there's the scene where Ahsoka shows up to see her, and they're going to go off and try to find Ezra Bridger. You obviously have confirmation from season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Ahsoka's MO is to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. So it just kind of meshes together to say, like, this is probably going to be the journey that we see her go on, and Sabrine makes sense to bring in. What might disappoint people is that
people hate disappointment. What are you going to hit us with?
The actress that plays or does the voice for Sabine on Rebels, I think I'm just trying to remember her name right now. I think it's Tia. Double checking. Yep, Tia Sakar. She might not be in consideration. So this sounds like it might go down the same path of Ashley Eckstein.
I am disappointed.
Well, I will admit I am a little bit more disappointed about this one than I am about Ashley.
Yeah, I like Ashley Eckstein.
Oh, I love her.
She's great. She was fantastic, but I also didn't think she made sense for a live action Ahsoka. And maybe
she just doesn't have that experience as much.
Yeah.
Or there could have been a lot of other reasons too, which we won't get into. But this one I'm a little bit more disappointed in because Tia Sakar does. Do you know where she's from?
No.
You would know. She's Vicky from The Good Place.
Oh my gosh.
Goes Jan's brain.
Yep. And we worked in our Good Place reference.
There's our Good Place reference.
Pretty early on. We got it in the news.
It's been a while. I know, only through the news now.
Yeah.
But she's Vicky in The Good Place.
Okay,
so
cool.
She has the legs to do live action. She's done it. Now, I don't know if she has the ability to do like the flying around and the fighting and everything that we see Sabine do, and so maybe that's what they're looking for. I don't know, but that's the piece of news there.
Okay,
excited? I'm excited to get her in live action. She's cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool. I have a bit of news.
You're moving.
Yep, we talked about that.
Yep,
it's somebody's birthday.
Whose birthday?
Do you want to guess?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Do you want to ask Akinator whose birthday it is?
I should. I haven't used Akinator in a while. That thing's fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's not Neil Patrick Harris's birthday. It's Ahmed Best's birthday.
Ahmed Best.
Yes.
Who famously played C-3PO.
Who famously played, was it Bulio, I think?
No.
But Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks and who's gone through this, I guess, renaissance or revival where people have come to really appreciate who he is because he's an amazing human being.
Because the people who grew up with watching him and liked him are now old enough to show him that they liked him.
The people who were children, I guess, for the most part, and, weren't like cynical jerks watching the prequels.
We're kidding. We love all of you guys, but you're cynical jerks.
Yep.
Just kidding.
They just, I think you're absolutely right. I think the kids that really just enjoyed Jar Jar and enjoyed the movies for just the cinematic excitement of them are grown up now, and they're like, yeah, he did a really nice job. And there's all these stories that keep coming out about just how lovely a human being he is and how lovely a person he is.
Never deserved the treatment he got.
Never deserved it. And it sounds like there's just more and more of these stories, like where he went to Celebration. I believe the last Celebration got a standing ovation in front of the live audience there. People are appreciating Ahmed Best. We appreciate Ahmed Best. And now there is, one of those, Twitter rampage things to like get him into more Star Wars content. He deserves it, and I'm all for it. So happy birthday, Ahmed Best, who obviously listens to this show all the time.
Obviously, right? You've heard it here. This is the first place you're hearing it. We should have an Ahmed Best Appreciation Day.
Yes.
In Star Wars, on the Star Wars calendar.
Absolutely. Why not today? Let's have this one be the first one.
This is it. The birthday is the best day to make it.
Why not?
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
And we'll call it the Jar Jar Binks Ahmed Best Appreciation Day.
Yep. I'm good with that. Cool. So it's official. Write your congressperson.
I expect to see him in the next season of The Bad Batch because he's got to be around somewhere.
That'd be cool.
Right? Maybe he's gone back to what's it called? I just forgot the name of the city. Utapau?
Denver.
No, it's not Utapau. Denver. I can't remember. Whatever. But maybe he's going to go back to the Gungans as the senator and just let them know, hey, the Republic's fallen. We need to go even further underground.
That would work.
Maybe.
But I welcome that. I welcome Ahmed Best in more Star Wars stuff, and I wish him tons of success because he did have a really hard road there for a little bit. People were very unkind, and it was very unfair.
Well, people should be kinder to him now. That the tables have turned. The balance is back in the balance. I don't know what phrase to use.
I think the phrase is how the turntables.
How the turntables.
Yeah.
Michael Scott. That's a Michael Scott quote right there. You know that episode where he says that? I think it's the same one where he's like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky,
quoted by Michael Scott.
Yep.
Yeah. Good episode.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, let's move on. So the other two pieces of news, very small, quick ones before we get to
But wait, there's more?
What's that?
But wait, there's more?
Wow. Taika Waititi was interviewed recently and said that he's begun writing his movie that's going to come out in the near future. I mean, we still haven't got the one they just wrapped up, which is Thor: Love and Thunder, so it's going to be a while. But he started to write it.
Did you see exciting. What he tweeted about writing it? He said something like, I'm working on the script for my Star Wars movie, and I can't wait to completely ruin Star Wars for everyone.
It's just such a Taika thing to say.
I appreciate his self-awareness, and he knows that he's sort of stepping into the lion's
territory.
Den.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes with a lot of people will be like, that's not Star Wars, but it's going to be.
I welcome it.
The most Star Wars thing someone's ever seen too.
Yep.
Can't wait. And the other small piece of news was, I guess we got the comics that came out this week, some pretty big ones. War of the Bounty Hunters #3 and the Marvel High Republic #8 just recently. You got to go check those out. The #8 is the last issue, I think, in that volume, so it kind of wraps up the story as we know so far, but leaves room to continue it with the Drangir. That'll be cool. And War of the Bounty Hunters, you just don't want to miss. It's so good.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed covering the Marvel series for the Broaxium YouTube channel on Quick Shots, which come out every Wednesday when new Star Wars comics are coming out.
Yep.
That's been a wild ride. I have a new appreciation for Cavan Scott's writing.
Yep.
And the artwork is fantastic, and just highly recommend you checking the Broaxium YouTube channel out and seeing some great coverage of those, because it's really compelling stories, great artwork, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a blast covering it. It's been great. Let's move on now. All right, last piece of news. We got our season finale.
Wow, you faked me out there.
Well, this is the segue into segment 2. Segue into segment 2. Look at that. More to the story. But the last piece of news that we got is the season finale for The Bad Batch.
Uh-huh.
And it was pretty good. Did not disappoint. In my book, at least. What about you?
And, it had a few things that I really enjoyed, and I'm going to come back to this in the main segment where we're talking about The Bad Batch on the whole. It had a couple things that are like my greatest fears.
a monster in a tube attacking you.
Well, the tube, yeah, like claustrophobia and then drowning.
Oh yeah.
And there's plenty of that, the threat of those things in this episode. But
Oh yeah. Lots of it.
I really, so it's the end of the Kaminoans, and that's a bit sad, or at least the end of most of them, and the end of the cloning facility.
It's the end of Topoka City. We don't know what happened to all the Kaminoans.
Yep.
But we do know what happened to the baby clones.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
That was sad.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like, okay, this has to be, if not the worst, one of the worst things the Empire has done, and it's only been a couple of weeks or months since the Empire has existed.
Yep. That's true. That's a good point. Fresh out of the gate, they're doing nightmarish stuff.
I mean, destroying Alderaan is probably one of the worst, but if not the worst. Nope, that is the worst. But they had to start somewhere, and they started in a pretty bad place.
Yeah. So good action, heavy duty, dark moments. Just a city being blown to bits and falling into the sea with a few folks trying to hang on. Some pretty dark imagery and sad stuff, but
yeah.
Ends well, thank goodness. Spoiler alert.
Mostly well.
Ends well enough to be able to say, hey, we'll have a second season and most of the characters will survive.
Yep. It gives us a little something to look forward to with the main scientist. I'm blanking on her name now. It's not Lama Su, but she's been taken now to an Empire, a new facility where she's going to continue her cloning work. Yeah. And a lot of people speculating that it might have something to do with Grogu or something with the Jedi. Who knows what it is? Like some connection to the Mandalorian is what I'm saying.
That, yeah, I can totally see that. And that was a thing in the expanded universe too. So every once in a while I go back to these books that I read in the 90s when I was a kid. Star Wars books that at one point, were all that we had in terms of new Star Wars stuff. But True. I do remember distinctly there was a side story in a Kevin J. Anderson novel about an Imperial base or an Imperial facility where they were hoarding scientists from all over the universe to build weapons and do experimental stuff to benefit the Empire. So this felt a bit like that to me.
Yeah. And I guess the other connection they could probably make with it is to episode 9. Mm-hmm. Something along that. So, but maybe they'll play it out more in the Bad Batch first before we get to that point, which would be cool to see. Yeah. And the other one was just the not ending on a good note with Crosshair. Yeah. It was a decent note. Like there was some good stuff that happened. They reached a common ground, but they're not in agreement.
Yeah, still. I didn't think that they would ever get there. So,
and I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah,
because that's not how it works in real life.
Yeah,
you don't just go on a 30-minute episode and go by the end of it, okay, I agree with you, I'll come with you, and we'll live happily ever after as a group of 5 clones again, plus Omega. It's like, no, real life is you probably still don't agree. And that line from Tech, I understand you, but it doesn't mean I agree with you. Absolutely loved it.
Oh,
probably my favorite line of the whole first season.
Yeah, when you say it, it does jump out at me. It didn't catch me the same way when I heard it in the episode.
Yeah. But anyway, where would you like to start in our season 1 recap episode of The Bad Batch, which we are calling 5 Clones and a Little Lady?
Aw.
Because I was trying to come up with a name and thought of 3 Men and a Baby and learned there was a sequel to it called 3 Men and a Little Lady. I was like, okay, let's just change it to 5 Clones.
Which I didn't know.
I didn't know that either until that point.
But that's a good one.
No, where would you like to start? What were some of your favorite moments from the season, or biggest takeaways, themes? Like, where do you want to start?
So I had a few favorite moments or a few favorite themes. I'm not sure exactly how to put these out there, but I'll start with this one. And I found a few tweets that helped to articulate some things for me or point things out to me that I just thought were exceptionally good about this first season. Maybe we can save our overall, I guess, score, grade, whatever, for the season once we've wrapped up the conversation.
Yep. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of debate to be had there. But okay, so this first one that I got comes from a guy named Christian Johansson from Sweden, where we have a handful of listeners.
Yes.
So, hello, Swedish friends. But he tweeted, it's a side-by-side pic of Omega from the first episode and from the last episode.
Okay.
And he points something out. And he said, I love how camera angles made Omega appear small and out of place in the first episode of The Bad Batch, while she appears taller and more experienced as a part of the squad in the finale.
Huh.
And if you do watch this first episode, because we've got it up on TV, a lot of the camera angle is down looking at her as you would any child.
Yeah.
And she seems small and diminutive and not weak and helpless, but she seems like a little kid.
Even the second episode, they were really playing that. That was the takeaway I had, because once the season ended, I said, all right, let's start it over from the beginning and watch it all the way through. And they really played at the beginning the child card a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, remember in episode 2, she gets off the plane, she sees the soil, she picks up the soil. And like when she ran past the gate and the Nexu came after her, it was played as like a child. Like the lesson was, we have to keep them safe. They're children. Mm-hmm. And so they played that card very heavy. And then all of a sudden, by the end, she's bossing Hunter around.
Yeah.
And giving him moral lessons.
Yeah.
She's come a long way.
She's come a long way. And I think that the camera work was, I'm sure, deliberate to show her small and diminutive and childlike in the beginning, and then becoming more of a full member of the Bad Batch and sort of the same stature and height as the rest of them as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But another moment that happened towards the end there, and a thing I think they did well, and I probably don't give it enough credit for, is the way that they use music and use musical themes throughout the series.
Yes.
So at the end of this last episode, one of the last shots of the season, some of Omega's theme is kind of playing as she's talking to Crosshair and having a pretty clean break, walking away from him, sort of a no hard feelings type of conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. You saved me. I saved you type thing.
Yep. And it's not an entirely happy theme. And so things, I think, get a little bit more complicated as Omega's stature grows within the group. And I personally, I don't know about you, dude, but I warmed up to Omega in a way that I didn't think I necessarily would. I'll admit that. I didn't know that I would like her as a character.
I didn't know why she was there, and I think they gave her a reason to be there that was greater than it could have just been like she's tagging along. But no, like they gave her significance to the story. In like episode 9 or whatever that was, where they revealed that there's an alpha, and that was Boba, and she's Omega, the last, and I guess the last true first generation clone. Mm-hmm. Was the whole thing that they're insinuating with that. So very, very special in terms of, where she's come from.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
If I may add, so this was tweeted by a Certain Point of View podcast, a fellow Star Wars podcast. Mm-hmm. And they pointed out that moment that you mentioned of when she feels the sun on her face and the soil. Mm. And it says, in season 1, episode 2, Cut and Run, as Omega is getting off the ship, we have this beautiful moment of wonder as she experiences sunlight, nature, and freedom for the first time. Now, talking about the music, they say, the major progression used for her theme here perfectly captures that sense of wonder and hope that she feels. I got to go back and watch and really pay attention to the music and the camera angles a little bit more, I think.
I know I really liked it, and liked it in moments where I either recognized it or it was just very appropriate. The music was really good, but I didn't pick up on the cues that it was giving. So that's really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
What a talent.
Wonderful talent. They definitely they put some really sharp, terrific people on this show. But what are some things that jumped out to you, man?
One thing that I kind of realized as I was watching back through, and I remember thinking this at the beginning, and most of it came across as like Filoni's a genius. Like he knows those things to really get at the nostalgia factor for Star Wars fans. And if you think like all the surprises that I think they pulled out, the first episode they had Depa Billaba and Caleb, who eventually becomes Kanan, at the very beginning, and that was surprising. People were so excited to kind of get that backstory and see that, all except for our bro host Dan, who he rightfully called out that it kind of conflicts with the story that they tell in the comics. But
yeah, that I forgot about that conversation.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, like I can see why that ruffled some feathers too. But it was really cool to still get them back, especially these characters that their genesis was with Filoni. Saw Gerrera was in it, but then like every single episode after that, I realized there's just a surprise for everyone, something that, that will get the long-term fan really excited. So like they brought back the Nexu and Cut from the Clone Wars. They brought the baby Rancor, Muchi.
Yep.
Right, that was really cool. Like people were speculating, was that Batista? Was that the Rancor that we get in Return of the Jedi?
Bear?
And like saying, "Oh, I'm never gonna look at that scene again the same way."
Yep.
Then there was the Martez sisters coming back, Rex eventually coming back, the Dianoga, and then I think everyone's favorite was Cad Bane.
Yeah.
As soon as he came back, people exploded with excitement again.
People went nuts. And look, this is also a criticism of this season, in that you don't get as much out of it if you haven't put the work in to watch Clone Wars and the rest of the stuff.
It works on its own, but you definitely miss that factor.
Like it totally works on its own.
It's not as exciting if you don't have that full background.
Yeah, it's not. Candidly, I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 show if you just haven't seen everything else.
Yeah, but even then, having seen those, I don't think I would have still given it a 10 out of 10. But I'm spoiling what my number is at the end. By the way, it's not bad. It's not a bad number. It's good.
Not at all.
But then like the other, I mean, I already mentioned the Alpha and Omega one, but the return to Ryloth and getting a young Hera.
Wait,
and
what
Chopper,
was the Alpha and Omega thing?
that was Alpha's Boba Fett and Omega is her. She hasn't changed her name yet. Maybe she'll change to something we recognize later on. Who knows? But that the significance of who she is.
Got it.
To the Kaminoans, and to Star Wars and to those who know that story. But getting the young Hera and Chopper was exciting. The TK numbers being introduced and Grieger, like the point being, there was a lot of reliance on familiarity and throwing in a lot of those surprises. And it almost felt like after a while that I don't know if it was just an over reliance on some of those surprises of giving you those familiar things to just make it significant. But it almost, as I was watching it all the way through, became a bit of a distraction in some way.
I would agree.
And it was like, I want you to kind of focus, especially because like there are some areas I would have liked them to focus a little bit more on. I feel like, I'll talk about this in a second, character development wise, Omega got the most,
made sense, was an interesting creative arc, and I was really overall pleased with how they developed her as a character.
Yep.
Criticism that I saw all over the place was that the rest of the Bad Batch stayed kind of one-dimensional.
Very one-dimensional.
And
except for Hunter.
Hunter had a heck of an evolution, but even Crosshair. Crosshair, you expect to evolve, and they have this conversation about the inhibitor chip, and he explains that he had it removed, and so he's independently making these decisions. And to me, that's not character development. It's almost like he just doubled down on like, I'm even more who I am than you thought I was when I had the inhibitor chip.
Yeah.
I'm so me that I don't even need that, and I still make these decisions.
I'm making these choices. And his reason for making those choices is not wrong. It's like, it's the same kind of choice as somebody who's in a job that maybe they should leave it or want to leave it. They don't because it's comfortable, because they know it, because they know how to do it.
I just had this conversation with my therapist the other night.
You're like, this sounds familiar. This is the conversation that Crosshair's having. My brothers went on this, they just basically left, and I'm here all alone now to be the best sharpshooter in the galaxy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he's feeling a little bit of that. You kind of feel for him in this episode because of that.
I totally feel for him. He has some conflict that he's trying to resolve, and it's really tough for him. And he has some generosity of heart where he helps these guys out, and he didn't have to. And in fact, he probably shouldn't have, if that's not where his allegiances lie.
But what does it say about him that he did?
I think there's
as he said, like, I'm going to give you a chance. You never gave me a chance. I'm kind of bitter, and I feel betrayed by you, but I'm going to give this to you because you're still my brother.
That's the bigger man moment. I think is what that is. And so that was kind of cool because that was unexpected to have him be that that gracious to be able to help those guys out. I don't know that it changes him a whole lot as a character. I think he's still the guy that we got in that first episode. And I think a lot of the Bad Batch is.
Tech was awesome and loves what he had some really good one-liners and really good moments, but didn't really develop. Same with Echo.
And Tech, or Tick, as Omega would say.
Omega.
Kind of stuck in the background the whole time, and definitely adds some dimension to things and is entertaining and has some good one-liners, but kind of way there in the background and kind of forgotten about sometimes.
I think we're lingering on this point a little long, but because at the same time, like, it's something I really noticed this time around, but it's something I just hope that they address.
Hang on, did you rewatch the whole season?
The whole season.
Wow.
Which was difficult to do in like 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think, so we are recording this on a Thursday evening, and I think you told me on Sunday that you were going to rewatch the whole season.
Yeah, and I ended up making it through, and I'm pretty tired because of it.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was tough. But I will say that's where seeing it all kind of pieced together like that. Like when you just get it piece by piece, you kind of forget the full story. When you just watch it straight through like that, it feels, it's funny because it feels rushed. You're like, whoa, how does Omega go from being almost like a child in episode 2 to being this wise person that she is by episode 16?
Yeah.
It just goes very fast and progresses, but at the same time, it felt right to her character, especially as they revealed more details about her. And you realize episode 2 is less about her just being a child. It's more about her experiencing something other than Tapoka City for the first time in her life, which is, I can't even fathom how that would be for me if the first time that I ever saw sunshine, right? They don't see sunshine on Camino. First time I ever see it is at the age that she is. Whatever it is.
There is some of that for the Bad Batch too. I feel like where they're kind of out and about and exploring, and when they're put in a position where they have to find a way to survive on their own, and they fall into being employed by Sid, that's got to be an interesting place in terms of another one of my themes, which is identity. So how is it that you self-identify, one, when you're a clone, when you are literally manufactured from an alpha and you are a descendant, and you've got some of your own individual personality, but you're a clone. You were grown in a factory. And then the Republic falls apart. And so you were a clone that was designed to serve a certain cause and purpose that is no longer there. And now you have to independently find a way to survive.
Yeah.
I thought like those were interesting questions that I think were shown to the audience, kind of teed up for the audience, but weren't really tackled. There wasn't a whole lot of like, but who are we if we are not, not in any real depth, I felt like.
Especially because I remember thinking that when I was rewatching episode 8, which is Reunion, which is a great episode, but there's a line in there about...
Remind us what that one's about.
That was right after they got the inhibitor chips removed, and they have the reunion with Crosshair. They're on the wreckage of the Star Destroyer, the Republic one, and they're talking about why didn't we go with Rex, and Hunter's kind of got this view of just like it's not their path. But then they're all like, but then what is our path? Like working for Sid? Like, is that really our path?
Right.
And even Crosshair's like, really? Like, you can't really define what your path is yet. And so I feel like we don't know what it is. Like, Hunter's their leader and is leading them a direction, but it feels like they still don't know where they're trying, what their place is. And they're figuring that out, but they obviously know it's not with the Empire, but then it's also not with the Rebellion.
Right.
So where is it?
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of Hunter's overall arc, is he's still got to figure that out and eventually figure out how to get Crosshair into it. But that their place is in the Rebellion.
So is their identity, their mission, or their cause, is that really what defines them? Are they kind of searching for that?
I think their identity is defined more about their brotherhood. And that's a lot of it with the clones, is about their relation to each other. and how people won't necessarily, treat them like real people, and so they treat each other like real people.
Yeah.
So I mean, you even see it with season 2 of the Mandalorian, the very last episode, when Bo-Katan is like, "I've heard your voice a million times, like talking about Boba Fett," and could tell like she treats him like a clone, like you're not a real person, and so they even feel a lot less like it because even the regulars and them have this tiff, like they have this or rift between them, so they are defined by the brotherhood they have between the 5 of them.
Yeah.
And that's why it hurts so much more for Crosshair.
And that's why I really liked that the last episode of the season brought them back to their barracks or their room in Camino, reunited with Crosshair in that space where Wrecker notched on the wall the numbers of the missions as they got back. Because I feel like part of also their identity and their brotherhood was that it was contained in that one space together. Like whatever happened in the rough and tumble battle of the day, they'd find themselves back in that room together.
Which is awesome. And that's what, again, tip my hat to some of the great stuff, like Wrecker and the tradition of him marking on the wall. And when he doesn't get to do that, like he builds a new tradition with Omega, and that's the Mantel mix. Like that's such a cool thing.
What do you think that is?
What, the Mantel mix?
Yeah.
Like I always think popcorn, but then, I mean, they sell Mantel mix at Disney World at the...
They do?
Batu. Yeah, I don't know really what it is. I got to look it up again.
I'm curious.
I always think of like caramelized popcorn or like, what's that? Like that like crunchy kind of almond stuff that I can't remember, but it's super good.
I'm going to look up what that is that they're selling in Batu.
Yeah.
And there's a few things like that, like the blue milk and whatever.
Which is not milk. Good. I can drink it still.
Yeah. Can you not have dairy?
Huh?
You can't have dairy?
I force myself to have some dairy because ice cream is just too good to ever not eat it again. But milk, I always do lactate.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my dietary. You're going to have to...
Our new segment, Ben's dietary restrictions.
In general. Yeah, that would not be good. We would lose
He can't even eat milk.
He's not a real boy. Some Pinocchio reference there. How's that?
Oh, man. It just got weird.
It got weird a long time ago.
Dude,
sorry, man.
It's been weird for 30 episodes.
There's 30
What were we talking about? The Mantel mix. Right.
What's that?
The Mantel mix.
What's in it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Google. We'll find out. But my point being the
bugs,
tradition.
the protein source of the future.
Maybe it's not that much protein. Who knows? We need to look up what is in the table of contents. Or the table. What is that called?
The nutrition label?
The nutrition label. The nutritional facts.
Made with 100% organic Mantels.
Now what's a Mantel? I need to know.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
Oh, man. We're lost. No, but like that tradition, just setting that back up. And that was, Wrecker was the other one that I can't. You can't get back on track?
I can't. Hang
I'm
on,
trying,
sorry.
man. I'm trying. Come with me.
I just pictured that meme where it's like, you ask one Star Wars question and then, flash forward and it's 3 a.m. and you're watching a 40-minute YouTube video on the different types of chairs that they have at the Jedi Council.
Like, why would anyone watch this? And then like 5,000 hands go up like, I want to watch this.
Right. 8,000 comments, questions.
Yeah. But really, would it be designed like that?
Oh, gosh.
I don't even want to pretend like I know what I'm talking about there. Anyway, Wrecker, traditions. I did like that connection. And that's the other thing. I think Wrecker was other than Hunter and Omega, was the other one that I felt was really well developed. Like he had that whole side story at the beginning with the inhibitor trip that led to what was one of my favorite episodes. The one where they have to get the inhibitor chips removed.
Yeah, and I loved seeing, I didn't love it, and it was a little bit disconcerting seeing Wrecker be
Unhinged?
Be inhibited, I guess, just because you see like how big a powerful guy he is, and he's like the sweet, like goofy big brother type character to Omega, and then you see just how, I guess, a negative force he can be when he is being completely controlled that way. Yeah, it was just a good contrast.
It was also something I guess I appreciated more was just how mean Crosshair was to him. Like, you saw it in the last
Yeah.
episode. Like, he's mean to him. He's probably one of the smarter ones, other than Tech.
Yep.
Who isn't mean to him, right? He kind of appreciates his role within the group, but just because he's not the brightest crayon in the box,
Yep.
right? He's more of that brute that he's treated by Crosshair like he has less value or something. It's really weird.
That's a good point about Tech, though. That's it goes to show that smart and nice are two different things.
Yeah.
They just don't go together necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. No, the other thing that I guess I'll say is I thought that there were some really cool moments in this season where, other than just like the character development for a few, which I'll get back to for Omega and Hunter, but there are some good life lessons.
Oh, please, yeah.
In this too. And I guess the one that I picked up this time around was in like Common Ground, where, and they kind of made this a theme even again at the very end, where they kind of learned the lesson that you can still help people that you disagree with, and try to find the common ground, like they said. Like that was the whole theme of that episode. And then I loved how they juxtaposed that with the following episode on Ryloth, when Cham is kind of conflicted of, do I go in the direction of the Empire and we finally have peace, we finally won the war, but I'm not really sure I really like these guys coming in there and dealing with all that conflict, and juxtaposing those two episodes back to back with each other. So I thought those were good. Like, you had a lot of good parenting moments and parenting lessons. The wisest person of the group ended up being Omega. Like, she unfaultingly just kept challenging the group and saying, why wouldn't we go and help this person? Why not help Hera get her parents back? Even if the odds are stacked against us. Like, if we can come up with a good plan, shouldn't we do it? Like, there's somebody in need, and that's what who cares if we're going to get paid or not? Like, she kind of had that moral backbone and taught a lot of good lessons along the way.
That's a great point. That was something else that I wanted to touch on, was the fact that she becomes a moral voice for this broader group of supposedly more mature and more experienced adults.
Right.
Even though there's a few different role reversal type things between Omega and the Bad Batch. We find out Omega is actually older than the Bad Batch. And,
yeah.
That to me is like...
But their growth was accelerated.
Her growth was accelerated, but that to me is like a very kind of like, oh yeah, I'm watching a science fiction-y type show.
Right.
It's a good reminder of that. But yeah, I think that some of the morality that Omega displays is almost like throwing caution to the wind type morality. Right. Where she is willing to take risks and drag the Bad Batch into risky situations to do what she perceives to be the right thing, or what they would have done for us, and so on and so on. So,
yep.
Wisdom, definitely. Reckless, though, like a reckless morality. I think there's something really endearing about that, about like, I'm going to risk my neck to help you because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So that's another part of the reasons, I guess, that like Omega really grows on me throughout the show is it's just a really sweet, endearing kind of like, I'm willing to put myself in harm's way for you.
Yeah. And
even the droid in the last episode.
Yeah.
It's a droid. Like we've talked about in one of our droid episodes, how one way you can look at these things in, from a realistic perspective, are that droids are like appliances. Mm-hmm. They're like sophisticated appliances that it's like your Roomba is a droid. But she knows that the droid has helped them and helped her, and so she's willing to risk her life to make sure that droid gets back okay. Like it's really endearing.
That's a really good point. I mean, she does a lot of those endearing things that just kind of capture, even just like the simple way that she says that we should help him. Like, isn't that just the right thing to do?
Right.
Or even just like the part with what was that? Roland, in I think it was like episode 13 or whichever one that was, the infested one, mm-hmm. Right? Like her simple way of just going, well, Ruby likes him, so he must not be that bad.
Right.
Like, first of all, the maturity to make that connection. Like, I would never, I guess part of it is just like, you've got to think first and foremost that this animal here has the ability to discern between a good person and a bad person,
right,
and then only associate themselves with good people,
yep,
or people that they like, I should say that more. People that they like. And then for her to recognize that and say, so if Ruby likes him, then he can't be all that bad. I think a lot of adults would be like, that's not how the world works, kid. That's not how animals are. They're not that smart and that kind of stuff. But she doesn't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she sees this as a sophisticated animal, and therefore maybe there's reason to why she should trust him a little bit, even if everything he's done up to that point is not trustworthy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's a really good point about how you're portraying how she makes her argument to put themselves in harm's way or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the truth is often really simple. It's explaining it, talking around it, and putting it in a way that it lands well for whoever's trying to receive it. But kids don't do that. Kids tell you how it is, and she just lays it out there and says, "Well, like, if so and so likes him, then must be good."
yeah.
End of story.
End of story.
Yep.
And you go, Hunter just goes, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that's how you thought about that.
Yep.
Even though no one in the group thought he was a good guy, maybe he deserved what he's about to get, you know? No one else stood up for him,
Nobody did.
you know? Except, eventually Sid did. Eventually Sid was like, no, just call this a bad deal and walk away. And Pike said no to that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was really interesting.
Should we do our top 5 episodes?
You read my mind. Look at that. Yes. So let's talk real quick. Tell us what go from the bottom up, 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
What your 5th was, 4th all the way up, and tell us a little bit about the episode, maybe why you ranked it where you did, and I'll do the same.
Okay. So I look, I didn't have a scientific way of doing this.
There's no such way to do this scientifically.
I don't know. I feel like there's probably some fans out there who are like, I created a grading rubric.
I use an Excel spreadsheet, and it calculated a score based off of my inputs.
Right. I scored each episode off 16 simple qualitative factors and blah, blah, blah. And no, I just kind of went off, what did I like? And I actually went to, what's that website called? Is it just called Ranker? And not like Rancor, like the beast. But,
That's what I thought of.
but there is a website, I think it's called, ranker.com. And people can just go and vote on the episodes of the season of The Bad Batch or other TV shows as well. And so I kind of used that because I was curious to see how other people were ranking them. And my ranking did not shake out the same way as most people. But I'll quickly go through them. Number 5, Decommissioned. This is. Do you remember this one? This is the one
Yes,
in
do.
the factory where they're trying to get the droid, and they're not the only ones trying to get the droid. I like this one a lot because of Omega's personal growth.
Okay.
This is one where she has to. Well, I think that the main image that jumps out to me about this one is her throwing herself in harm's way for the good of the Bad Batch because she wants to be part of the Bad Batch so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Camino Lost. Loved
Okay.
the action in that one. Loved Omega's heroism in that one. Number 3, Bounty Lost because of Cad Bane. Love Cad Bane in that one. Also, again, a lot about Omega that I like in that one. Cornered, number 2.
Okay.
Love the chase scenes on Pantora and all the excitement and action and all that. Number 1, my favorite episode from the season.
Ooh, man.
And I don't feel bad about this. I'm not going to apologize for it. My favorite episode going back is still the first episode, Aftermath.
Okay. Interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
Only interesting because I think it's what got people excited about the season, and I would agree with you. It's one of the better ones. But as the episodes went on, like I felt like that was a distant memory, and so it's really interesting that it stayed there for you.
Yeah.
At the very top. So cool.
And you know, one of the things that made me really appreciate it was, I think it was like 2 weeks into the season, you pointed out to me that episode 1 starts with the Clone Wars voiceover because Order 66 has not been executed yet, and it's still technically the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then that's over, and then so is the voiceover thing, and I thought, gosh, that's clever. I really like how they set that up, and I kind of went back and watched it, and I really appreciated it.
No, I totally agree with you from that front. Like the only criticism I had against it rewatching it was it did feel a little slow, and almost was like, yeah, you made it a longer episode, but you could have shortened it actually.
Yeah, probably.
But like that was my only criticism against it, because otherwise it did exactly what it needed to do, which is get me excited to watch the rest of the season.
Yep.
Like, it was a very good first episode. It had the surprises I mentioned that got people excited and hooked. It eventually it brought back Saw Gerrera too later on. So it kind of had all the factors that it kept going back to for each episode after that, the surprise factors. But just, setting the plot forward, the rift between them. I was so sad when Crosshair didn't go with him. I was hoping it would be like the full group, and it wasn't.
Yep.
So, and that's the good thing about this first season is like they did a good job making sure that remained the theme, was this split. They brought it all the way back at the end of the season. Now, they had a lot of episodes in between where that wasn't the focus, but it just kind of true to any sitcom almost. Like it ended up being that cloud that hovered over the whole plot.
That's a good point. They committed, and they stayed committed to that the
which
whole
was
season.
good.
Yeah.
So,
but what do you got, dude? Hit me with your list.
Well, it's funny because I think you mentioned a couple that I will eventually mention too, and I'm glad to hear that you did. I will say that Reunion, the one with Cad Bane, slipped a little bit for me. It was in the top, and then it fell out. But I totally agree for a lot of the same reasons that you did. But my number 5 is the same one as you. I don't remember what number you said, maybe 3. Cornered.
Nice one.
The chase scene, the Clink droid.
Yeah.
And something I didn't appreciate about this one, but Omega, like, kind of, she's seeing this as an opportunity to go sightseeing. Remember? Like, like they were just trying to the Bad Batch was trying to find ways to keep food on the table and money in their pocket. But she wanted to go sightseeing, right? And instead what she got was real world experience. That was a hard episode for her. She went from thinking that the galaxy is just a place you go explore to the galaxy is actually a pretty cruel place.
Yeah.
Like, I almost got kidnapped.
Yep.
And could have died. Hanging from a ledge at one point. Like, it was rough. But that was a great episode. The chase scene and the development for Omega, that was cool.
Excellent.
Number 4, Return to Ryloth.
Okay.
I really liked Omega and Hera putting their heads together to come up with a strategy, and you get to see Hera fly for the first time, and seeing Chopper and stuff like that. But this was just such and even just like Hauser and dealing with him as the clone, defecting and getting his
good stuff.
comrades to defect too. Like, that was just good stuff.
Yeah, good
and
pick.
Ending on the note of Crosshair going like, can I go after them? Like, it felt at that point like, all right, we're finally going to get to where we want to get to, which is a reunion.
Yep.
A reunion that explains a lot more between Crosshair and the rest of the Bad Batch. So I love that one. Episode 7, Battle Scars, was my number 3.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I love this one because it's heart-wrenching when Wrecker turns. But they had built it up so much, you were just waiting for it. And you just wanted to see what would happen when he did. And it did not disappoint. It was gut-wrenching. It was great. Getting the Dianoga back was cool. Rex returning was cool.
Oh, yeah.
But I just loved the way that they kind of dealt with that whole fallout. Episode 14, War Mantle, was my number 2. The nostalgia factor with seeing the Empire and the TKs and
was
Hunter
that the first one of that it was that one, and then Ryloth? Those went together?
Yeah, War Mantle led into... No, that wasn't Ryloth. It was a couple episodes after Ryloth.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the one where Hunter gets captured at the very end.
Yep. Okay.
So, but that one was really good in terms of just like getting that nostalgia factor in there. And yeah, like Hunter getting captured and the way that they led up to that was sad.
Yeah.
And it was tough to see how that impacted Omega. And then my favorite was actually the 15th episode, Return to Camino. So your first one was how it kicked off. Mine was how it ended.
Okay. I loved them both. They were both terrific.
I should say, not episode 16. Episode 16 was the last episode. This was the one prior to that, where you have the reunion with Hunter.
Yes.
And he gives them the chance. The music cue when like they were fighting as a Bad Batch again got me really excited. That was probably what did it. So
we've listed our favorite episodes, some of our favorite themes. Season 1 is in the books. What grade do you give it?
You go first. Grade or stars? Ranking out of 10. What are we going to do? What scale? I've got both.
You've got both?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, give me out of 10. I like the I like the precision that you can get with 10 stars. Give me out of 10 stars. Let's do that.
I will.
You can do quarter stars, half stars.
You can do half stars?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I will give it an 8.
Ooh, okay.
Which, again,
8 full stars.
8 full stars. Again, I critiqued it a bit here and there, but at the end of the day, I was very entertained, and I would go back and watch a lot of these episodes again.
Oh yeah.
I love the characters. I love the individuality of each member of the Bad Batch, and that's the thing. Like, maybe they didn't get developed, but each of them has a place, and they play their part to a T.
That's absolutely right. They're so distinct, and there's no real overlap. It's not
Right.
but they are. You do get the Brotherhood vibe.
Yes. Even like Echo, who I feel like was one of the more underserved ones, like when he had his moments, like I mentioned in the War Mantle episode, we need to go save Gregor because Rex trusts him and I trust him. Like, he has his moments still in episodes like that. So I just like each one of these characters a lot. Wrecker is still my favorite. And my only critiques I've already mentioned enough of. But I would watch this again, and I'm excited for what it's set up for. It wasn't perfect. There's some episodes where, yeah, that was okay. That was fine. But they all kind of had their purpose, and they all told a good story.
Yeah.
And it's just the start of something hopefully bigger for a while.
Yeah.
And it finally told us like what's happening in the Empire.
Yeah.
Like when it got established and started up.
Yeah, which is really cool stuff.
Yeah. How about you?
I give it a 7.75.
You're going to that? Usually people go to like 0.5
Well,
increments.
it was 7.745, and I just rounded up.
Stop.
Because it'd just be too dorky.
Oh, man.
So I agree with everything you've said. I think we both have our own criticisms of the show. I think we both certainly agree on a lot of the stuff that we love. It loses a quarter of a star for me in that...
From my score, you mean?
Well, no, I was going to give it an 8.
Oh, okay.
But it lost a quarter of a star for me based on just how deep you have to go to be able to appreciate everything in this show.
Sure. Okay.
You have to have done hours and hours and hours of Clone Wars watching, etc., to really be able to get everything out of the show that you should be able to get out of it. And hey, maybe some of that stuff will unfold for you over time, dear listeners. If you haven't watched, the other animated series, maybe you'll watch them and come back and watch the Clone Wars, and then your head will explode when you see Cad Bane again and things like that. But that was a criticism that I saw all over the place on middle of the road media outlets. So not media outlets that are Star Wars centric, but ones to just cover TV and things like that said like, hey, you kind of have to go deep to be able to get the juice out of this show. I think that some of them were a little bit harsh. I think like you, I think you can, I agree that you can really enjoy this show as a standalone show. The episodes work as standalone episodes and so on. But yeah, I think if you haven't seen all that stuff, it's just not quite the same. But I love it. I'm excited for season 2.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think here's the other thing I was going to say. Out of all of the animated series that they've done, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and this, I think this was the best first season of any of their animated.
Yep.
So what can it do from here? Where can it go? And I kind of mentioned like Clone Wars, let's just say. Clone Wars, it struggled a lot in its first season, I felt. And then it really picked up. And every season after that is progressively better than the one that came before. To the point where I think season 5 has some of my favorite episodes and favorite moments. And then season 7 has some great ones too. Like, it just ends with a bang. So I see some great potential if that's if that's kind of the example to go off of. If season 1 was, to me, a struggle in Clone Wars and it ends up in such a great place, what does that say that the Bad Batch could do? Same with Rebels.
Yeah.
Like, I think seasons 2 and 3 of Rebels really get really good. Season 1, it just was like, okay, I'm watching this. So I have a lot of high hopes for season 2 if that's the track record that it follows, similar to those ones. So, and with the fact that I just said it was the best first season of any of them.
Yeah.
So, a lot to look forward to. We will do some more coverage of that when we get episodes and as news starts to drop of when those could be arriving. My guess is it's if they just build it for season 2, it's going to be a little bit more time, but expect it sometime in 2022.
Yeah, and thankfully animated series, even though there's all this concern about the Delta variant and things like that, you can still record in a booth on your own. So they can do the voice work, they can do the animation, they can make this show even if there is another wave of the pandemic. But fingers crossed that, hopefully we're beyond that in history. But
I think there's like outlets coming out and saying it's time that we just accept that we're going to live with this. Like, this is part of life now, and we got to figure out what that means.
Yeah.
Which means boosters or whatever and stuff like that. So we'll get to the other side of this, though.
Yep. But kids, stay home and listen to the Star Bros podcast.
Available wherever you download your podcast today. And on the Broaxium YouTube channel.
Yes.
All right. I'm out. What else do we got?
I think we just want to say thank you to everybody who's been listening to the show, who's been watching the show on the Broaxium YouTube channel, who's been liking, commenting, sending us messages on Twitter at Star Bros Podcast. Please do, if you do like the show, please subscribe on whatever platform it is that you listen on. Leave us a review. It helps us out. Again, we're not making any money we're just having fun and getting emails from you guys at the, what's our email address? The Star Bros Podcast. The Star Bros Podcast at Gmail. We love getting your messages. Our friend Publicly Shamed has sent us a bunch of great messages over the last few weeks. So, much love to Publicly Shamed. And we just really enjoy talking Star Wars, connecting with folks, and you guys are doing that with us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Go to YouTube, subscribe to Broaxium, and basically just keep your comments, questions, and enthusiastic Star Wars banter coming our way. Thank you. And so what is our next episode going to be about?
So our next episode, we are going to have to figure out how this works. It's just going to be fun. Prepare for it. Be excited about it. Know that it's going to be awesome. We are going to try to bring you some of the craziest, wackiest facts that we learn about Star Wars, whether it's about the movies themselves or about the making of it, or just like try to surprise each other with like, did you know fun facts?
I love it.
And have a really fun conversation around, just things that might surprise you. So listeners, you might learn a few things from us that you're like, you guys didn't know that? Or it'd be like, wow, that's so cool. I can't wait to tell my friends. This is hopefully the outcome of the discussion.
Hopefully.
But, look forward to that. It should be really interesting because we love learning more about it and thought it would be cool to just explore the, kind of the craziest facts that might be out. Almost like the Guinness World Records. Like,
yes,
someone can do that?
Yeah. So rather than trying to like have a narrative or a theme or whatever, the theme is just going to be, let's try to surprise each other with the wackiest facts that we can find.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So look forward to that. Thank you, as always, like Jan said, for joining us every other week on... What's that?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. And thank you for always giving me a reason to laugh, Jan. It's the best. So, something I look forward to every week. What do we have to say to our listeners? Is there anything else we need to tell them?
We have one more thing.
What's that one thing?
Is it you?
It's you.
It's me. That's a wrap.
There you go.